What's up, people? It's me again. You call me Adama, yes, yeah. Um, so I came back today because I wanted to share some more information with you guys about my previous video. Some of the things that I was talking about then, just to make it a little bit more clear, to as what's going on here in America. Um, in America, we have these things called civil rights. Well, the problem with civil rights is that they are given. But the problem with rights being given is that no human really has such authority to give rights. And so now we run into the issue of the 13th Amendment, where supposedly it ends slavery. But the reality is that it actually transitions slavery. Slavery is changed from forced labor to punishment for crime. And so the 13th Amendment says that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except for punishment of a crime, shall exist in America. Well, either it exists or it doesn't exist. The idea that it exists only as punishment brings about the question, what was it before it was a punishment? If it's the same thing, right? Then what was it before it was a punishment? So the truth is that, one, slavery was never abolished. It was just constitutionally legalized. If you look at the Emancipation Proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation was just a proclamation. I mean, that's what a proclamation is. It's not a law. It's the announcing of a rared set of point of views by the controlling class of America for whatever purposes they decided to do it. None of them were moral because they didn't abolish slavery. It made slavery punishment now. And so directly after the Civil War ends in 1866, there's this creation of the Vagrancy Act. And so literally a year after the slaves were freed, there's this new law that comes about that says if you're homeless and you don't have a job, then you are a criminal. And it criminalizes the exact same, it criminalizes the same people that were just a year prior released from forced labor and inhumane treatment, slavery. The idea of slavery, we have to define what slavery is. Slavery is pretty much just human ownership. Slavery is one human owning another human. And so if that's what slavery is, then we can see that slavery has not ended. And in 1866, let's be honest, there wasn't any carjackings, any armed robberies. There wasn't any crime really from black people for there to need to be a law to stop them from being being criminals. There was a law that was created to criminalize them so that they could be slaves again. This is the constitutional legalization of slavery. And now, because the North won the Civil War, they took slavery from the South, which in this institution of the South, the Confederacy, it was a private enterprise to some degree. And what they did was America legalized it and made it a business. They made it a taxable business. They made human ownership a business. And that's i.e. through criminalization and through the prison system. Now, the prison system didn't really get bumped out. It didn't really get started till later in the 20th century. The first jail was actually built in 1890. I believe it's in Pennsylvania or Virginia. But either way, the true status of the African American in America is not one of freedom. In fact, if you look at Dre versus Scott, a Supreme Court ruled that during the writing of the Constitution, that blacks were not even considered to be citizens of America. And so here's where it gets really, really funny. So you create a law that criminalizes homelessness and lack of work, but you just freed a bunch of slaves that have no homes, they have no land, they have no food, they have nothing. Everything they ever had came from the same people that just freed them. So now what do these people do? They're either forced to continue to work slavery, or they are forced to disperse. And because of this Vagrancy Act, they are recaptured and re-enslaved. And now they are re-enslaved legally. America has done a lot of things to make sure that their ideology never dies. In fact, the founding fathers of this nation, coming from Europe, I think people forget the fact that these are Europeans, they're not Americans. America is just a place that they named it. The reality is that the mindset of the Europeans that were coming over here came from a royal perception. They came from a royal black background of kings and queens and rule and government and a lower class and an upper class. And so what happens now is in roughly 1861, when the Confederate War is about to begin, there's an individual by the name of Andrew Stevens. He gives a speech by the name of the Cornerstone Speech. In this speech, he outlines the perception of the African slave and its institution in their society, as he says it. And according to these people, the place of the African American is one of second-class citizenship and subordination to the white race. And this is history. And so there's a difference between human rights and civil rights. I don't see how anybody. I want to know who gave who the power to give other people and human beings rights. If we all die and we all bleed, then how can any human being control the destiny, the existence of another human being? This is the issue, and this is the cause of the present revolution that is taking place as we speak. Slavery has not ended. It just took on a different face. And not only did it take on a different face, but it took on a different name. And there's been so many hundreds of years removed. We're so many hundred years removed from the reality of this thing that it makes it very easy for us to overlook it and to say, well, we are progressing. We're not progressing. This is not progression. This government still rules. These people colonize the entire world under the decrees of the Pope of the Catholic Church and popes of the Catholic Church. Papal bulls were written, Inter Cetera, 1493, gave land rights to human beings to conquer and exploit and discover lands that were already inhabited. And if those people weren't of the Christian faith, then they could be subjugated to slavery, perpetual, which is exactly what it is, perpetual slavery. It's slavery under a different name and a different face. It's no different than, the face of the president changing every 4 to 8 years. It's the same thing. You get the same thing, just a different face and a different lingo. Uh, what I'm trying to do is revolutionize the world. What I'm trying to do is create a free society that is ungoverned by Europeans, that is accountable only to itself. And I need help. The idea was never to free black people. That was never the plan. The plan was to save the Union. Abraham Lincoln said it to his letter in Horace Greeley. He was going to save the Union, whether that meant freeing slaves or keeping them.